Friends, welcome to what I consider a part 3, perhaps, to the La Beaute Louis Vuitton release that occurred over the last weekend. And I say this is part 3 because I filmed the Shot With Me video when the line released online, following up with an impromptu post Louis Vuitton store experience where initially I had said I wasn't buying anything, but I changed my mind due to a number of factors that I'm happy to cover. But also, I bought the eyeshadow palette. It had a grip on me that I was not prepared for, and I didn't want to spend so much in one purchase. I figured, let me buy the lipstick first, sit on it overnight, and if it still had its claws on me, which it did, I'll just go buy it next day at another location that I wanted to purposely visit to see if it was a little different from the experience I had at the Soho boutique location. And at that time, when I filmed my second what happened at the store video, I was at my boyfriend's apartment. I didn't have everything with me, and I couldn't take a look at the other lipstick components in my collection that I consider luxury beauty status to compare to the Louis Vuitton one. And I also have different compacts and the Dior eyeshadow compact, specifically because speculation out there that the older Dior eyeshadow formula that changed, I forgot how many years ago, is in fact what might be in the Louis Vuitton compact, based on the fact that they're both made in France and they have that dome shape to them. This is not magnetic or doesn't made of brass and aluminum, but we'll go over those details. And I also wanted to address a lot of the dialogue that took place in my last video. I have over 500 comments because I made some remarks that did not make some people happy, but I felt that I needed to say and share my thoughts on the moral superiority argument that I was making in connection to this release, that I felt people were pressuring creators to not buy it. Not necessarily they didn't have to buy it just for the sake of reviewing, but because it's Louis Vuitton and, you know, their makeup's not great anyway, like they're crooks and all this, these unhinged comments. I just had to say, listen, relax, and I had to address it. But in this video, I wanted to cover many points that were made. I didn't read all the comments because, my gosh, my brain will probably explode. But first, covering my in-store experience, and people were expressing their own disappointment because of my visit. Because, again, let me start from the top. When the prices released for this makeup line, I was crushed. I had grand plans to buy 2 or 3 lipsticks, 2 eyeshadow palettes. I didn't anticipate the direction Louis Vuitton would take. If they would take the standard luxury beauty route, I was thinking maybe along the same lines as Hermès in terms of their pricing. But when I saw that they were going to charge $160 for one lipstick, as I was told way before it reached the internet, someone had messaged me about the price because their Louis Vuitton sales associate told them, and I was like, gosh darn it. I catastrophized the moment. I was like, I can't buy anything now. It's too expensive. What am I going to do? And then when I started to think about it and just relax, I said, well, you could buy a lipstick. Yes, it is expensive for one lipstick, but considering how much money you spent on makeup overall, and you can spend $160 on anything easily, depending on what it is, what have you. I then started to think about it and was like, listen, you could buy a lipstick and maybe the review process might not have been as comprehensive as I had wanted it to be in filming more lipsticks and more eyeshadow palettes, because Pat McGrath was the creative director for this line, and I wanted to experience what she created for these products. And then I said, okay, I'm not going to buy anything, but I could go to the store and kind of make it like Shot With Me vlog style, have my camera, had the mic set up, and I visited the Soho boutique pop-up that was constructed intentionally for this release. And Melanie, my sales associate from the main Louis Vuitton store, had assured me that I was able to film. On the day of, I was told that I'm not able to take video, but I could take pictures. Okay. And the layout of the store, they had like the main podium where you had all the lipsticks and all the eyeshadow palettes, the accessories on the perimeters of the store, the big trunk display that was like the main stage item for the space, and then you had the different vanity stations. The whole entire store was red, so it made lighting just tough because you really couldn't see the true color of the lipsticks. And they had the testers there. It wasn't like all the lipsticks lipsticks were pristine, right? They had testers there with the name under the lipstick model. It wasn't a real lipstick. It was just there for show. I was told that I'm only allowed to swatch 3 lipsticks. Again, dreams were crushed. I had grand plans of filming, of swatching, of showing everyone these colors. Out of 55 lipsticks, I'm only allowed to swatch 3. And then with the eyeshadow palettes, I was told that I'm not allowed to swatch with my fingers, but they could swatch with Q-tips and everything. So I understand people's disappointment and how they said thanks for taking one for the team, because there was just so much restriction. There was so much restriction with this, I think, pivotal beauty release in the industry. And despite this not targeting me, I completely understand that. I had said before, this is for the Louis Vuitton customer, but in reality, I do think that the customers that are going to flood the stores, or the ones who are going to express the most interest to buy these items, are the Sephora and higher end luxury beauty customer. Those who shop at Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, Barney's, Bergdorf Goodman. Those are the customers that are going to come into the store. And Louis Vuitton has to realize that selling makeup is not the same as selling a purse. And when the stakes are so high for an item that just has a premium price on it, makeup is not about the aesthetic experience, but the textural experience. Feeling the powders, how they lay on the skin, how they look on your skin tone. When it comes to lipsticks, okay, $160 a pop and $70 for refills, you need to make sure you're buying a color that you love, and it might require you more than just a swatch on back of hand or arm. It requires you to wear it and to see it under good lighting, which unfortunately the 57th Street location did not have. It was kind of dim in there, but I have to say a lot looser in the protocol, where I asked to swatch maybe like 3 lipsticks, only because I had a better handle of what I wanted to look at the time. She brought them all out and I was able to swatch it on my hand. No problem. I didn't ask about the eyeshadow because I didn't want to push my luck, but I'm sure she would have allowed me to swatch with my fingers. And I do think over the weekend, the team will have to realize they need to adjust. They got to be a little more flexible if they want this launch to be successful in allowing the client to experience the makeup as it should be experienced. Again, it's not just about putting a purse on your shoulder and looking at the mirror and deciding if it's for you. No, makeup is something that has to be felt and worn, especially at this higher price point. So I'm not entirely sure that my experience will be consistent with others, because some of you in the comments has said that wasn't your experience, which I'm so happy to hear about. And unfortunately, my friend Deborah had mentioned that her customer service rep wanted to see if a local store will be willing to ship an eyeshadow palette to her, and they said no unless she buys a purse. I'm like, LV, you're killing us. Don't push your customers away because you've already created an adverse reaction with the pricing and everything else. So your customer service has to be a little more catering, I think, to a newer customer base that is opening up for you. No longer this will be only for the LV customer, but now the LV beauty customer, especially if they're thinking about releasing new makeup down in the future. Who knows what else they'll release. They might release their skincare line at some point. That's going to be wild. I can't wait to see the comments when those LV branded cotton rounds are going for sale. Oh my goodness. I'm getting my popcorn ready for that one. But here it is. We got the palette as well as a lipstick refill. I had to get Vuittonite. Vuittonite was a color that Justina was nice enough to give me a sample of. I was shocked, actually, that I got a sample at all. And the color I purchased on Friday when I visited the Soho boutique is Volcano Heart. And that is this plummy brown. It looks like to be more like a chocolate brown from the bullet, but it actually applies a little more like cherry plum. It's gorgeous. And the refill I purchased with Vuittonite, because Vuittonite is like my quintessential lip but better daily lipstick shade. And I also wanted to go over the construction of the lipstick case as well as the eyeshadow palette, because I wanted to compare the textures to the Dior palette. Also talk on comparisons in terms of quality compared to like a Pat McGrath palette. So we got a lot to cover here, but that is the intro. Thank you all for your support for my last video. I really appreciate it. Sometimes, well, all the time when you're on the internet, it could be tough in dealing with dialogue from someone you can't see and that they feel inclined to share certain words that might make you upset. I took that chance because I felt what I said needed to be said. And if people are upset about it, that's fine. That's their interpretation. And I'm happy to be back in diving into makeup that initially I was not going to buy because I was just shocked at the price because I'm not familiar with Louis Vuitton, but thought on it and said, okay, I get it. I understand what's happening now. We've reset and we're back on. And I forgot I needed to film a short with a fresh shadow because you know how we love the untouched fresh close-ups family. But I'll let you know how I got the look and everything. I have the swatches on standby. I'll do new ones, but I wanted to get into the lipstick case comparisons because I have quite a few. I got my notes here about the pricing and all that. And I also wanted to get into the swatches. Everything will be down below on a timestamp. So if there's something specific you want to see and not want to watch anything else, just head down below and scrub across the timeline and it'll bring you right over. If you're wondering what I have on, I have Forces of Nature. This is the shadow that I purchased because it's actually the shadow that Justina, one of the makeup artists at the Louis Vuitton boutique, was nice enough to apply on me. Actually, I kind of took over. I'm like, give me that brush. The brushes, by the way, what a disappointment. I mean, I'm just thinking having that brass monogram design with like a kakishibu dyed bristle or even like a high quality Psycho goat hair, but I get it. Like the synthetic route is fine because there's a lot of high grade, well manufactured synthetic filaments out there. I think Louis Vuitton could have done a far better job in seeking out like the ones that Westman Atelier uses or Maria Catala from Beautylish, right? That they were nice to send me that set a few months ago. The Chikuhodo synthetic filaments in some of their lines. I'm not going to talk about it. Okay, I'm letting go. I'm letting go, but I just wanted to mention that. But here is the compact. And when you see this for the first time, it really just brings you in. I mean, aesthetically, it's just beyond satisfying. And I'm not even into Louis Vuitton like that. And surprisingly, I think they went understated with the design. They could have went like full-on cognac monogram style, which I was anticipating actually. I wasn't anticipating this engineering. And when I mean engineering, so it's made out of brass and aluminum. You have this latch here with a magnetic closure. You have the frame that gets dislodged by pulling down the latch. And there you can see the individual magnetic shadow pans with an entire magnetic base. You have the LV logo on the center and it snaps back in place. There's a lot going on in this compact. And also for the lipstick component. So it's all metal and a material they call Zamac, which I'm assuming this clear stuff is made out of because they said zero plastic. And although that looks like plastic, it might be a different material. And the standout feature for this lipstick component is, yes, you have the motif symbols around the rim of the center of the compact. You have the flower motif on the cap with the clear view to see the lipstick inside. You have the magnetic cap, but what's extraordinary, and yes, I'm using that word for a reason, is that you have the flower motif base of the lipstick and base of the refill. This is magnetic, and a lot of the lipstick components I'll show you are mostly made out of plastic with a plastic mount inside. So just wanted to make that clear because, and as I was hoping when I saw the videos for the first time on the 25th for the online release, that I was like, they have to make this magnetic, at least to justify some of the high price. I mean, really. And I mentioned in my last video that the lip balm component is the same as the lipstick in terms of dimension. So you don't actually have to buy the white case if you want to buy a balm. You could actually buy a balm or lipstick refill as long as you have either the black or white component. And I could only imagine where Louis Vuitton will take this because they can make like exclusive limited edition compacts, maybe with a cognac background or maybe like with an epi leather or something. Out of control. And who is behind developing these designs? Well, his name is Konstantin Gurchik. He is a world-renowned German industrial designer. It says here, Gertchick's design centers on reusable aluminum and brass casings featuring a swiveling golden ring closure, a direct homage to the brass fittings of the Maison's historic trunks. And I picked up on that immediately because it's almost like you need the refill to unlock the lipstick, because the refills don't actually dial up without it being in the actual base. Although you could probably, I think you gotta go in here. Maybe? I don't want to mess up my nails. I just painted them. It says here, Konstantin Gertchick designed and crafted the all-metal aluminum and brass components of the beauty line's packaging. His work pays tribute to Louis Vuitton's heritage while embedding emotional and tactile luxury into the user experience. My gosh, you're not kidding with the emotional aspect of this. So I thought that was interesting that they actually hired someone who specializes in this type of metal work, and that was immediately clear, and you'll feel the weight of this compact. It's heavy, it's brass, it's aluminum. Again, the engineering is just unlike anything I've seen on the market and currently have in my collection in the moment. Now, compared to Lisa Eldridge's Rouge Experience case, often brought up in the dialogue, yes, the outer shell is metal, but the inside is plastic, as well as the closure. It's not a magnetic closure, it's a mechanical one. The refill is all metal, and Lisa intentionally did that because I believe mixed material components cannot be recycled. It has to be either or. So you have the all metal where when the lipstick is done, and bonus, you don't need the case to dial up the lipstick. The refill can dial up solo. Once you're done with the lipstick, because the inside is metal as well, you can recycle this entire thing, and it has the metal cap to go on. Now, when you look inside the base of the Rouge Experience case, again, you have a plastic lining with the plastic mount inside, and this is not magnetic. It just kind of pushes in. Same thing with the cap. And that retails for $59, the case and the lipstick inside. For a Rouge Experience refill, that will cost you $30. Moving on to the Dries Van Noten lipstick case. The lipstick case is separate from the refill. You will have to get a lipstick case alongside one lipstick refill. And you have the dial up here that's plastic. Inside, both the base and the cap are plastic as well, but the outside, I believe, I don't know what this material is with the lime green and the dots here and the gold rim. I think this might be metal, not entirely sure. But this also hard to dial up without it being in the base. So you'll have to go in here, like in the hole, to dial up the lipstick. But this just snaps in place, and the cap just snaps as well. None of this, I don't think it's it feels magnetic, but maybe it's both a little bit of mechanical and magnetic at the same time. And the Dries Van Noten, the case is $39, where the lipstick is $41. So an entire unit will cost you $81. No, 80. I can't count or do math. That's why I have to write everything down. Now off to Prada Beauty, one of my favorite luxury beauty brands. The entire outer unit is metal. So this is the silver on silver, and you have the gold on silver, which is industrial in the look, very much like hardware in your face. You have a magnetic closure. You have the most of the refill made out of metal, but the base is plastic. And you see here the Prada Beauty mint brand color. You see that plastic mount inside? So it just snaps in place. Again, you have the plastic lining on the cap, but at least the cap is magnetic. For the Prada Beauty lipsticks, the entire unit will cost you $50, and the refill, what you just see here, will cost you $40. The Celine lipstick I do not have. Let me know if you guys tried the Celine lipsticks. That retails for $78. The Carolina Herrera, I remember when this released, I don't remember the response of the Carolina Herrera lipsticks. I could only imagine with something similar. Maybe not to the same extent as what followed the Louis Vuitton release, but you have three parts to this. You have the attachment, well, the cap, the actual lipstick, and the magnetic tassel attachment. So this is the actual refill that you can purchase. This is for $33. The case that has this hook on the top and the inside I believe is plastic as well, with the zebra pattern outside. That retails for $24. And I think the tassel attachment, which is optional, so this will just be the lipstick on its own. But if you want this, and why wouldn't you, this will cost you $30, and it's a magnetic base. So that's how it attaches. It's quite a strong magnet, so rest assured this ain't going anywhere once it's on there. And the total cost will be $87 if you want all 3 parts. Well, if you just want the cap and the lipstick, it'll be $57. But if you want the tassel, you gotta add 30. And our beloved Hermès. Now, Hermès definitely has the magnetic cap, right? You see it there. But the actual refill is plastic. You see the plastic dial that you're able to actually dial without it having to be in the base of the lipstick. You have a standard plastic mount there on the bottom. It snaps in place. It doesn't have a magnetic base like the Louis Vuitton one does, but you have the magnetic cap and also the Hermès logo coin design on the top, which is a quintessential Hermès. I think this is one of the more luxurious feeling lipsticks. It's quite heavy despite the plastic parts in here. And the shiny lipstick, oh, by the way, this is the Rosy Lip Oil Balm. What is this specifically? The Rosy Lip Enhancer. This retails for $81, as well as the shiny lipstick. The shiny lipstick is a smaller diameter than the satin or matte lipsticks. This is the standard size for the Hermès, and the shiny lipstick component is designed in a similar fashion. You have the magnetic cap, and you also have the plastic insert with a separate dial that you can use just the refills without having to put it in the base. And you see, even though it has Hermès here on the rim, this is still a plastic lining on both the base and inside the cap, but you still have the magnetic cap. And just to show you Louis Vuitton's case again, magnetic cap, all metal on the refill, metal on the inside, just as you saw with Lisa's Rouge experience, but you have now the magnetic base. And it's not just a random mount on the base of the refill or the base of the lipstick. It is shaped as the flower motif from the Louis Vuitton monogram canvas pattern. And they made it so this is also magnetic as it slides in. It's just such a satisfying feeling to use this lipstick, my heaven's sake. And then of course you have that magnetic cap. I keep it in its felt cover that comes with the lipstick. Thank goodness we get the freaking felt cover for free. You could get the $3,000 lipstick trunk that you can only fit the lipstick in. You can't even fit anything else, my gosh. So this is where I keep the lipstick in my fanny pack so the actual component doesn't get scratched and wrecked in there. And the compact also comes with its own felt cover. One of the more fun parts of buying from Louis Vuitton is the over-the-top packaging, because even in the store, they put everything in the smaller bag and they put this bag in another bag. I think it's hilarious, but that is part of the experience. And here you get your felt cover. What do we have? And we have a little brush that actually fits in these sewn in holes in the sleeve, so that's pretty neat. That fits right in between. So if you didn't want to bring separate brushes, you have the brushes inside these corner sleeves. Isn't that nice? Well, kind of hard to take them out when the compact's in there because it's quite girthy. What type of brushes we have? Okay, we have like a nice flexible lay down. You know, the synthetic bristles ain't bad for these emergency only brushes that I most likely would have used for that time when I visited Maddie's house and forgot my brushes. This would have been just fine. They're like kind of, well, no, one is more of like a round pencil brush and the other is a flatter shader. So that's pretty cool. But I don't want the bristles to get wrecked. So I'm gonna put back the cylinder protector on here. Don't know how practical that's going to be in the long run, but I think it's a safe bet at the moment while they're resting in there. All right, do you want to see these shadow swatches? I know you do. I have them here, but let's do a fresh arm and start with the pearl shade, the designated pearl, the skin show shade. If you're familiar with Pat McGrath Mothership palettes, each has a standard champagne, ivory, rose gold tone, basic shimmer that's used for highlighting. Quite soft, not blinged out, much like how the skin show shades are, but just enough sheen for highlighting purposes on the inner corner or on the center of the eye. I can't find the official finish name for the khaki green, but I would classify this as a satin. You see that there's a little sheen there with that gold pearl, and what I have on this eye with a little bit of that antique gold. I think it's smooth, it's easy to apply, it's easy to blend, it's soft. It does coincide with the Dior formula. It does. Word on the street, same manufacturer who made these shadows. And that makes sense because they're similar in feel. If you're wondering if they're same as Pat, not quite, and I'll get to that when, you know, I'll swatch a few from Mother's Mothership palettes, but this I believe is like the designated metallic. You can see just from the texture, it has a little more glitz, but it's not baked. It's still pressed. This is like the low-key Gigabyte from Subversive. It has a little more shine than the satin, but still manageable. It's, I think, user-friendly for those who are apprehensive about eyeshadow, and I think Pat purposefully formulated these to be softer than her Mothership shadows because, again, this is catering to an entirely different clientele who might use eyeshadow, but now I think LV wants to give them the opportunity to like dive in if they felt uncomfortable before because they don't want to look like a raccoon. Hard to accomplish with this type of a texture. And lastly, we have the designated matte, and this is on the warmer, like mahogany side. The mattes are incredible. They're soft, they're easy to blend. They just have beautiful movement on the lids. So this is Forces of Nature, and I had to get the green palette first because I just loved the look. And this is a lot smokier than what you saw in my last video because I didn't get a chance to go in the way I wanted. And I had to use those dreadful brushes, okay? But you saw now what we could get from the Fude. If you want to see this look in action, I have a short that I'll edit so you can see what I do and la 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 la. But I could apply a little bit, I guess. Should I just take this off and start from the beginning? You let me know. Now for the lipstick swatches. This is Volcano Heart. One of the mattes. You have a matte and satin finish from the entire line. And this is like a plummy brown and what I have on the lips now. And I would say this matte formula is quite comfortable. Now, after hours and hours and hours of wear, you will feel like there's something on your lip. But to offset that, I would apply a balm first or even Vaseline. You don't have to get the $70 lip balm from Louis Vuitton. If you have the Prada lip balm already, or like me, I just use Aquaphor Vaseline, and I just tap that on the center of the lip and then follow up with the matte lipstick. And Vuittonite, let's switch so we can dial it up. Vuittonite is just a beautiful rose brown. And I actually applied Vuittonite on my cheeks, then I used my fingers to blend it out. So this is my quintessential everyday, my lip but better in the matte, and I like that because I like that blurring effect on the lip. Which, do you want to see in action? I know you do. This color packs a punch, my gosh. I gotta make sure every bit is off. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't stay away from Vuittonite. I wore the heck out of my little sample that I received and just can't get over the color. And I love how I can go a little beyond my lip line and do the tap around. Again, just to have more of like that blotted lip, which I think this color is perfect to experiment with in terms of this application technique. And when you do that, it just looks like a fuller lip. And the color itself, I think, lends to that effect without it appearing messy. Look how it looks on my cheeks. Can you believe it? And then I use the skin show shade as highlight. Now let's quickly look at the swatches from Dior. This is in number 579 Jungle. Oh, by the way, because they're made in the same lab, or allegedly, these have a 6-month expiration life. But look at that. That actually has a little more than the shadow from Forces of Nature. That has a lot more pickup. And then I'll quickly swatch the more jungle green matte here. This is more of like a forest green, but oof, that is incredible. I love jungle. And I could swatch the softer shimmery shade here that kind of mimics what's going on with this shade here. I'll just swatch it right next to it. So this, in my opinion, has more shine. Dare I say, even though these might be made in the same lab, I still think the Quint formula is better. This, why did they change it? It has more body and girth without it going into mothership or indie territory. Like I would argue that these textures are still fairly easy to work with, even for an eyeshadow beginner that they feel like they need the softer textures to feel confident in applying their shadows. But I can see the similarity in the LV palette and the Dior palette. Now, you know I had to have her on standby. Jubilee is kind of giving what we have here in Forces of Nature, right? So this is a bake shade. This is nowhere near what we have in the LV palette. So you're gonna get a lot more shine from Jubilee. This is a lot more subdued from that antique gold. And that is the advantage you have in a mothership. If you definitely want more twinkle, reflectivity, just more powwow in general, and 250 is not worth it to you, meaning you don't care about the packaging, you're like, you respect the work on it, you're like, that's cool, but not gonna use it as much, then just stick to your mothership. Wouldn't it be wonderful, however, if we could get this bake formula in a magnetic pan? Is that possible? I don't think we'll be able to do that, because how it's pressed and crafted, is that even doable? Because, you know, I would love to take this with me, but this is just too big. It's too big. And Wicked Envy, I would say, is more of like a powder metallic compared to the khaki in Forces of Nature. So this has a lot more thickness to it. It doesn't have like that slurry quality that's found in the LV shadow, but the colors are similar 100%. You can definitely use Wicked Envy all over the eye. This is like a Wicked Envy eye right there, and have a similar look. The mattes, in my opinion, from Mothership palettes have a lot more grip. They're more pigmented, but might not be great for one who, again, is not comfortable with eyeshadow. So that has a little more of an uneven swatch, because the softer mattes from LV, I think, are just more user-friendly. But they're not sure on the pigment. I think I got pretty good coloring from that brown matte. So, and the Skin Show shade, if you want to see that in action, the Skin Show shade, let's see, compared to the Dior, definitely has more shine, in my opinion, than the Champagne Ivory shade in LV. The LV shade is a lot more subdued. Like, there's definitely not the same degree of shine. There's sheen, but you see how much reflectivity you have. The Skin Show shade from the Dior, but maybe that's what the client wants. Maybe Pat purposely formulated them to be a little more knocked down in terms of effect. That could be a thing. But if you were struggling just because of the color story, this is if you like the color story, could care less about the compact. If you have Midnight Sun, if you have Dior's Jungle like before it got reformulated, you don't really need Forces of Nature. You have Lisa's, whatchamacallit, forgive me, Desert Gleam. The khaki shade doesn't have the same impact as the one from LV, for sure. That's more of like a lighter khaki moment. And the velvet matte is nice. The luminous finishes are nice in there too. I'm still waiting for Viseart to come out with a khaki palette. We got the Paris one, and they were nice to send that to me. So I'm sorry that I haven't had an opportunity to film with it yet, but that is coming soon. Oh, wait a minute. Unexplored Garden. Prada Beauty also has to release a khaki something. I'm just saying. In my opinion, I do like the LV shadows more than YSL. Just because, let me explain, the YSL shadows could be a little powdery and the overlay shades could be a little grainy and sometimes challenging to stick on the lid. So if I had to choose, I think the Dior formula is far superior to the YSL. So these are the swatches I did for my short. Here is the matte from YSL's Unexplored Garden, the metallic, the overlay shade, and the taupe. Completely different color story. You can see Unexplored Garden is a little more cool overall and Forces of Nature warmer just with the presence of this mahogany matte brown. But compared to the khaki satin, which I'm happy to swatch again so we can just get a far better comparison to the shade in Unexplored Garden. This metallic from Unexplored Garden is almost like a muted emerald. And I know it's kind of hard to explain. Not like full on emerald, is muted and desaturated. Kind of reminds me of like some of the greens that exist in Byredo's mineral. By the way, I did buy the new Byredo palette, is on the way. Can't wait to get into that. But back to this comparison. If you have Unexplored Garden, you have the greens, but they're not going to have the same warm element as what's found in Forces of Nature. And I'm not saying the YSL shadows are terrible. I'm just presenting a what if scenario. If I only scenario could pick one, I would pick Forces of Nature over Unexplored Garden in terms of the formula, but I would definitely still pick the Dior, the older formula, over the YSL, but I still like the YSL shadows. Overbrewed is one of my all-time favorites, and I think in general one of the better formulated quads out of the bunch. And the Prada compacts, these are metal on the outer shell, but the insert is plastic, and you have the Prada logo rectangle to push the palette out, but you see how the inside is plastic and the palette is plastic too, which is fine. It's fine. The outer casing is metal and a magnetic closure with the lip here, so that's nice. The Prada compacts, I believe, are 90 and the refills are 70, something like that. It's on the higher price tag list. And Hermès shadows, I think, are 110. Do you know what also is going to cost 110? Victoria Beckham Beauty's new foundation drops. Who's gonna get the foundation drops, family? I want to try them first. I want to give them a shot. I think Nordstrom, if they carry the foundation, I want to sample. All right, let me take this off and I'll be right back. Fresh lids, and I plopped on the Suku eye primer for prep, and I still have Vuittonite on the cheeks. It's a lipstick, but I just tapped it out. I applied Volcano hard again for the thumbnail because I think it has impact. Now, because this is such a luxurious compact, careful with how it's handled, so I'm not clumsy and drop it, because that would be devastating. Something different we can do from what you saw before, because on the first eye, I applied this satin khaki all over the lid and just blur the edges, followed up with the matte for extra smoke. But I think I want to start this off with the antique shade. And when you apply this with a brush, it is super lightweight, has that translucent quality about it. But out of the four, has the most twinkle. Now, it doesn't have the most twinkle out of all the twinklies we've seen from other brands and possibly now currently in our collection, but just enough to provide that shine. And I'm gonna follow up with the creamy champagne ivory shade on both the inner corner and the brow bone. And now with my shader brush, specifically my Sonia G TS1, by the way, the new additions to the Kakashi Buzomi set is in the mail. And a huge thank you to Sonia and the Beautylish team once again for the generous gift. As soon as they arrive, well, when I'm home, because I'm traveling this week again, I'll get right on it. Or as a short, maybe just to introduce the brushes, I'll bring them with me to the hotel. But now following up with the satin shade, and I'm stamping my lash line here. Don't know if I want to go full-blown shadow wing or more of like a diffused moment. But this is what I love about the khaki color, that it has enough depth where I can wear it as a liner, that I don't have to go in with the brown matte if I don't want to. And that on its own is pretty simple, right? It's elegant, it's sophisticated, it's not too much. Yes, you're gonna get more bling out of Jubilee, more bling out of Gigabyte, without a doubt. If you wanted to add more smoke, you could go in, let's see, I could use my shader brush. So this is how it looks with just the wing. I can now fill in the outer V and start to envelop that region where I applied that antique gold on, and now work that khaki green around. And let me grab a fluffier brush, because that was good to lay down the product, but now I just need something to diffuse the edges. And I could work it over the antique a little bit, just so we can have a more complete gradient, and maybe bring a little bit of that on the lower lash line. Using my finger, although I watched Hindash's video and he said that these work better with brushes. I think it depends. It depends on the texture, because they vary from palette to palette. And now I can go just super simple with the champagne ivory and place that on the lid as like a spotlight effect. And then instead of going in with the khaki along my lash line, I now go in with the brown shade. And this is a great matte. It's creamy. It is soft because you'll see the brush prints in there, but I don't think it's so soft that it just flies off the lid, right? It has nice adherence, and I do love the tone of the brown. It's medium, and on someone like myself, medium to tannish with neutral undertones, it shows up enough for that bit of depth. I think the darkest brown out of the entire catalog is found in Monogram Touch. That looks like an espresso brown, like Extreme Dusk. Is that what it's called for Midnight Sun? Shame on me for forgetting. So you have a wing moment there, but you could follow up with how I did on the first round, is now just take that matte on the outer corner and start to build a little bit of smoke here on this area of my eye. On the first demo, I believe I had the antique on the lid with this warmer brown shade for smoke, but nice to have the softer champagne on the lid. It's like a pearl. It's literally like a pearl. Kind of reminds me of Prada Beauty's highlighter in terms of the effect it has on the skin. What I can do is maybe follow up with the khaki shade, but as like an arc moment. So it goes from the brown into the khaki. That's pretty. And then what I can do is, let me grab a smaller brush, another one that doesn't have too much shadow on it, and use the antique shade for the inner corner highlight so that it moves towards the khaki green. So it almost has like that antique to khaki gradient effect from inner corner through the arc, and following up with my fluffy brush to run that across both shades here, so it just has a far better combination. Alrighty, let's apply some lashes and I'll be right back. So here are the close-up shots of our second demo, and I hope this kind of provided more clarity about the products. If you were just interested in the textures, how they applied, how they look, you wanted more information about the components, because upon the release of this line, in terms of the information, we just got the pricing, and I guess you had to look for on your own to research who was behind the craftsmanship. We knew Pat McGrath obviously was involved. That was a part of the huge announcement. The perfumer who was involved with the scent in the lipsticks, which, by the way, not as aggressive as Hermès or Prada Beauty. I think I mentioned that in my last video. There is fragrance, however, so if that is a huge no for you, then just don't get it. But there's no fragrance in the shadows. I smell something, but I think that's just product, and I don't smell anything from my face. Now, keep in mind, because the lipsticks do have fragrance, and if you choose to apply any of these mattes as blush, you might smell it on your face, as I did when I first applied it. but it died down, so it doesn't hover around you for long after getting them on the cheeks. But I'm happy I was able to hop on again and make the packaging comparisons, shadow comparisons, do a demo for you if you are thinking about Forces of Nature. Now, I'll be in Vegas for like a day. Maybe I can visit that Louis Vuitton store. I don't know if they'll have the beauty line because I want to try like the glitter finish from either Cosmic Dreams, the purple palette, or the blue palette, because I think those are one of the two out of all of them that have like that more shiny texture. Not quite the same just from how it looks to the antique gold in Forces of Nature. So just so I could grab a photo of it, and hopefully by that time they kind of lax their protocol in terms of how a customer interacts with their testers, please. In regards to what I'm thinking about refills buying next, Monogram Touch for sure, and Nude Mirage. Nude Mirage is just gorgeous. You can't go wrong with that color story, but oh my gosh, Monogram Touch with like that berry satin shade, because I also want to get Rumbling Storm, one of the satin lipsticks that looks similar to Volcano Heart, but I think is a little more plummy, and of course it's satin, so it's not a matte finish. And don't know, well, Silk and Spice is pretty too, but I want to see those in action if I can in store. The great thing is, once you buy the component for the lipstick and the eyeshadow, you just buy refills thereafter. And sustainability comes with the cost. It comes with the cost in terms of the materials used, the innovations that need to be made in order for the customer to not buy entire components each time you want to buy a new color. And if you want to recycle these pieces, these parts, they have to be one type of material, like either all plastic or all metal. When it's mixed, it's a little tricky. So that's what, you know, I think what Louis Vuitton is trying to achieve with the whole sustainability efforts. But again, there's always a trade-off to everything, right? It's not just like, poof, voila, here's sustainability. But who's going to pay for it? Who's going to figure out how to craft something that can be recycled but is still high quality? There's a lot more that goes into it, and if you want to participate in that, great. If you don't, fine. I don't think you're like anti-earth if you want to buy a $250 compact. That there could be another brand that might develop a compact that's all metal, all aluminum brass, and it will be cheaper than Louis Vuitton, because Louis Vuitton, you are paying a premium for the brand, 100%. So another brand that's maybe not as top shelf as Louis Vuitton that could still figure out how to create a compact that's not mixed material, but or not metal and plastic, but more metal instead. That's going to be more expensive, but it's not going to be as expensive as LV, because again, it's not a luxury brand name. So it'll be interesting, because people were concerned about the fact that if this launch is successful, then other brands will follow suit. I think the higher price has to be justified with more innovative packaging efforts. I don't think they're going to slap on a higher price tag and the compact the same. There has to be changes that warrant the increase in price. So we'll see. This is an interesting social experiment. But anyway, hope the swatches help. Hope that if you had your eye on Forces of Nature, that the comparisons in the demo helped you in deciding if it's something that you still want to get or just keep on the shelf. And if you made it this far, make sure you like this video by clicking the thumbs up. It helps me tremendously in letting the YouTube algorithm know that I'm fun to watch, and will also recommend my videos to other beauty enthusiasts such as yourself. And consider subscribing, because who knows, I might pick up another eyeshadow refill. So you'll have to be here for the swatches and the demo, and you'll know when that upload drops immediately, especially if you click that notification bell. If you are a returning subscriber, well, thank you for taking the time once again to watch my content. But if it's your first time here, please stay, peruse some more. Maybe I'll see you in my last Louis Vuitton video. I'll make sure to catch you there. Definitely will see you in the comments under this video, and on here again next time.